I really, truly do. Now, I was told I have to introduce a colleague of mine, Mr. Michael Hankin, who's the CEO of Brown Advisory in Baltimore, one of the founding members of the Waterfront Partnership, who is probably even more passionate about this than I am. He is well connected, he's a doer, he wants to get things done, and he's going to tell you the rest of the story. And I've heard it, but I enjoy listening to him every time he talks about it because he's right on. So, without any further ado, Mr. Michael Hankin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Van, and thank you all for inviting me this evening to speak. Van's right. My day job is being president and CEO of Brown Advisory, an investment firm with offices in Baltimore, Washington, Boston, and London. And so it might seem odd to you all that I'm here with that kind of background. I might look a little different to you. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a nonprofit representative. I'm not a grassroots guy. I'm a business person. So I want to talk a little bit about my perspective of coming to this project as a business person, and I'll cover some of the things that Van mentioned. But hopefully you all can. Hopefully I will articulate well how I look at it from a business standpoint. Don't get me wrong, I do have some credentials in this area. I live in northern Baltimore County on a farm, and I've been involved in land conservation up there for about 25 years. But it was the movement of our firm to Fells Point in Baltimore, right out there on a pier. My office has 3 sides surrounded by water. So I'm looking at it every day. And it was our movement to this space in 2002 that really led to us getting behind this incredible mission to make Baltimore Harbor swimmable and fishable by 2020. It is a big, hairy, whatever van, but I think we're up to it. When we moved down there, we loved it. We have about 200 employees there. And there are lots of great bars and restaurants. There's a wonderful promenade to jog on. There are great views across the water toward Fort McHenry. There was only one problem. The place was filthy when we got down there. There was trash in the street and gutters, graffiti on poles and walls, and a lot of cement. There was some grass along the harbor, but it was just grass. And you might find a few pots there with some seasonal flowers. And that was the land side. If you didn't look across the water to Fort McHenry, but look down in it, it was pretty ugly. Fortunately, we've had a long tradition in city government, going back to Mayor Schaefer, supportive of cleaning things up. And there were already some people working on it, and they were trying to put together a plan. And a couple other business people and I went to a meeting, and the folks were very, very earnest, but they talked about maybe we can start something in 5 to 7 years. That's a very long time in the business world. So we said, forget this, let's see what we can do. One of the problems clearly was money, and there was thought of increasing the tax on residents, and you know what that means. And every time in Baltimore they try to expand different tax districts, they run into opposition. We took a different approach. We reached out only to the businesses operating along the harbor. And we banded together. It's called the Baltimore Waterfront Partnership, and it's run by Laurie Schwartz here. He's done a wonderful job. The initial supporters, some developers, H&S Properties, Cordish Properties, General Growth, Merit Properties, our firm, and others, all contributed funds to get started. The Science Center, thank you, Van, and the aquarium made significant contributions as if they were taxpayers. You all may view them as nonprofits, but we view them for this purpose as operating businesses. And they kicked in just like the rest of us. Not one business refused to make a significant contribution. So those of you who think about free rider issues, it didn't happen here. Several important local private foundations made very significant contributions for startup costs. Thank you, some guys, some folks in the room. And the city kicked in initially a quarter of our operating budget. Our first operating budget was about $1.5 million, to put it in perspective. Today it's about $2 million. And with that, we got going, all on a voluntary basis. And it's been a huge success. It covers from our building in Fells Point all the way around to the south side to the restaurant Rusty Scupper, those of you who are familiar with it. And I promise it'd be very, very hard for you to find a single piece of trash in our area of responsibility. Our folks have been picking up trash. We've been replanting. I think we have 20-some green areas, and we've been converting them from cement to sod, and then from sod to perennials. It's really amazing. It's wonderful to run and jog along. And I think we pick up something like 3,000 pounds of trash during the off-season each month and double that during the summer. So it's just amazing. The effort has been such a success that after 2 years, the City Council backed a proposal to form a business tax district. So we tax all business property owners. We just took it easy, didn't go after the residents in our area, and that provides enough money to keep it going. And we've been operating in this format for 4 years. So now we've turned our focus to the water. And there's no doubt it's much bigger, it's much more complex, it's much more difficult than just picking up trash. You all know a lot more about it, and I'll probably say some things that will definitely be, you guys will catch me, but just forgive me for that. But the success with the Waterfront Partnership really emboldened us to say, what's next? And we really believe that the time is now, for various reasons, the time is now to do it and to set a goal and work toward it. Now, I know I said I wasn't a scientist, but I didn't just wake up one day and say, I think this can be achieved. I did my own scientific study. About 1.5 years ago, we had a meeting of the Waterfront Partnership Board, and we had some other folks, some folks here tonight were there, some people from planning and public works. We were talking about sustainability, a very long-term goal. I said, all right, let's take a little test. Everybody pull out a piece of paper and write on the back when they thought the harbor could be swimmable and fishable. I think there were 12 people at that meeting. And you throw out a couple really loose cannons who said 2050, or they were trying to send me a message. But the average was between 2016 and 2020. And this included people in the city. We did a second scientific study at a water summit that we held at Brown Advisory, and there we had about 50 people. We did the same thing, the same average. How long would it take to get there? And we got somewhere between 2015, 2016, and 2020. So that's how we got to it. And you could pick 2022, 2025, 2018, but it doesn't really matter. In June of last year, we stood before the press. Howie was there, Laurie was there, Van was there. The mayor, new mayor, she'd only been mayor for 4 months, Sherry Wilson from MDE, and we announced this great big goal. And the mayor said, look, no plan's a good plan unless you had a goal, and now we got to figure out how to get it done. So that's where we are today. I did go out on a limb a little farther. I said, we can celebrate this in the future by having the first Baltimore Harbor triathlon, and I'll be the first entrant. Any other volunteers here? So Kevin Plank of Under Armour, also based in Baltimore, I think he's agreed to be the second, and he's on board with us. So why do we believe now is the time? Well, I describe it as sort of a perfect storm. First, there are a lot of great people working on it. Fran Flanagan, Howie Vandergag, Eliza Steinmeier, Phil Lee, these are all familiar names to you, representing very familiar organizations. And as you know, they've come together under one, so much more powerful. The Community Foundation has a woman named Cheryl Casciani who's just amazing at getting things done on the grassroots. And there's broad public support for this. We did a survey a couple years ago. We found 70% recognition for the phrase clean and green, which is incredible when you think about the things that the city has been focused on, has had to focus on to get that sort of name recognition. In 2009, the city adopted single stream recycling. It's been an incredible success. It's a very tough thing to do, and Cheryl and Celeste D'Amato and others worked on it. And it was really cool, but it was done through a grassroots effort. And these folks went out to every neighborhood organization and said, what can we do to get your neighborhood organization to back it? And we made loans to buy recycling bins. And that grassroots effort provides a framework that we think can be used to help be successful in our new mission. You all know about the MS4 permit the city is applying for. The new TMDLs, including the one on trash, are all targets we support. We know there's going to have to be some kind of financing mechanism, a stormwater management fee. We've gone out on record saying we'll support that. And we, remember who I am, we business, provided it's got to apply to everybody, and it's got to be the right sort of program, and we've got to have some sort of say in how the money has been spent. So just so you want to know some of the sausage making, we've said to the mayor, we'll support you, but we need you to support us. And the city needs vocal support from people like the Waterfront Partnership in order to get that, whatever it will be approved. Fourth, we've got a wonderful supporter in the new mayor, Mayor Rawlings Blake. She's very thoughtful. The last mayor, Sheila Dixon, was wonderful in clean and green, and Rawlings Blake has picked up where she's left and is right there with us. Some of you may know that the Conference of U.S. Mayors is being hosted in Baltimore next June. And provided we can get this plan, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, finished in time, we're hopeful that she will announce a long-term commitment to it at the Conference for U.S. Mayors, which will be amazing. And last, which I think may be new for a lot of people, is there is significant business support for this effort. And a few of us were talking before. Often, if you're in a group of environmentalists, I'm going to take a liberty here, and you talk about business, what a lot of people are thinking about are either large industries, large manufacturers, or developers. But there's a lot of other types of businesses out there, especially in Baltimore, which is a home of a lot of financial service companies. So we've enjoyed significant business support. To write the plan, to figure out how to do this, is going to cost $500,000. In a couple months, we've raised $400,000 with significant commitments from Legg Mason, from Constellation Energy, from our firm, from foundations such as Roush Foundation. Able Foundation is very, very interested in this, Campbell Foundation. When we've got to get out there to a few more businesses and foundations, but we think we'll get the job done. Under Armour is very interested, and they have seconded a young fellow named Will Phillips to work with us on this effort and to see how we can get it done together. And you may know that there's a new green line of clothing at Under Armour that they're working on and have rolled out. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I've got some. So the plan will have 5 key components. Van touched on 2 briefly, the diagnostic and the report card. We're going to take a page from Chesapeake Bay Foundation, University of Maryland Center for Environmental Studies. Don Bosch is working on this and his team to come up with a report card to identify some key factors, report on it regularly, and do it in plain English. We've engaged the Center for Watershed Protection, which has Bill Stack, who used to be a mole hidden inside of Public Works, but is now at CWP, along with Biohabitats, to come up with a very tactical plan what do? You got to get out and measure how many where are the dry leaks, where are the wet leaks, one by one. It's going to take a long time. You know, what kind of impact should we have on this MS4, future MS4s? You know, very, very tactical work that they're coming up with. A key part of our plan is neighborhood participation, and this is really necessary. It's substantive because a lot of our problems come from neighborhoods that might be 5 or 6 miles away from the harbor. It's also very important to make sure we get broad-based support. We've got to convince everybody that with all the problems Baltimore has, they should also be paying attention to the harbor. So we're setting up a plan where each neighborhood is going to be encouraged to develop an environmental health plan. It'll talk about trash in the streets, trash in the backyard, trash in the cement. A lot of those neighborhoods have streams. Many of them just have cement waterways. How to clean those up. And just like we did when the recycling effort, we're going to use a grassroots campaign and money to loan it to each neighborhood. Find a leader, back that leader. It doesn't take a lot. We're talking about $500 to $1,000 a neighborhood. And each year, measure that. Year 1, if we can get 30%, that would be amazing. Year 2, 40%. Also in neighborhoods are schools, post offices, federal, state, city buildings, which are a mess. And we're going to set it up so each of those has to develop a plan also. One of the dirtiest places in downtown Baltimore is the front of the U.S. Post Office. It's incredible, and we've just got to be more demanding that they do something about it. And the last part of the plan is PR and education. Here we've hired a team of 3 firms, a fellow named Jim Dale, a PR firm called Profiles, and a design firm called Mission Media to educate, to use social media to get the word out, and to create events that will bring people together. And on February 5th, we'll have our first State of the Harbor conference. Mayor's going to speak. Some other folks are going to speak. It's an all-day-long event at the Legg Mason headquarters in Baltimore, which is just wonderful to see a business like Legg come together on this. So we have our work cut out for us. In a sense, 2020 is just around the corner, but it's a long time. It's 10 years. And as I said, in the early years, we're going to measure something, but it's going to be something that can be achievable in those years. We're not going to see a really significant increase in the quality of the water in year 1 or year 2 or 3, but there are lots of other things that we can measure. And then later on, we're going to look to measure the number of days that somebody can get out there and fall in and be all right. And then the number of days that you can actually jump in and be all right. And then also reductions in nutrients and sediment, all the things that you all know about. So it's incredibly exciting to be part of that effort. So as a business person, I'm often asked to comment upon the economic value of these efforts. And frankly, that question always puts me a little sideways. It's a little diminishing in a sense, because don't get me wrong, there's tremendous economic importance to the city to clean up the water. The wonderful development that started with Harbor Place in 1980 and has now continued to Inner Harbor East, which is incredible, would not happen, would come to a dead stop if we're not successful in this effort. People are they're just tired of looking at the water. But I'm working on this project not just as a business person, but as a business citizen. And I may live in Baltimore County and only come to work in the city each day. But everybody who comes to work in the city and every business has a responsibility as a citizen. And I divide it between residential citizens and business citizens. And one of the responsibilities of being a citizen is to care for the environment. So that's why I'm here. There's plenty of economic benefit, but that won't keep us all late nights and weekends working to get this done. So We would like to take the same approach that businesses take to solving problems and try to work with people who are in the trenches and come up with plans, come up with deadlines, and come up with support and leverage, and where it's helpful, some clout to help you guys get the job done. So we couldn't be more committed as business citizens to make the harbor swimmable and fishable by 2020. So let me close by referencing two of my favorite lines. In the early stages of the Waterfront Partnership, we hired a PR firm to come up with a message, something that would really be jazzy and will motivate people. And we sat in a room for a day or two, and lots of different firms came, local, outside Baltimore, and it really was getting pretty hopeless because none of them were catchy. And then a local firm came in, a firm called Planet, and they had not one, but two great lines. The first was, "Don't make excuses, make a difference." And we thought that was something that had some edge and could be used, and you could create lots of little sub-messages and plaster them on the side of trash cans and trash trucks and buses and so forth, and really get in people's faces and spur them to action. And we use that. I mean, don't make excuses, make a difference. You can use it almost anywhere, and try it on your kids too. It works well. So it's a pretty cool line. But the second one we put aside for a while. It really applies here, and to me represents my own commitment to this project. And the second phrase is, "This is our city, let's act like it." This is our city, let's act like it. So it doesn't matter who you are, what your day job is, what else you're working on, but this is our city, let's act like it.